title. Okay.
Excellent.
Perfect time to check if you updated the title is as you're going live.
That's fine.
That's always the best time.
You know, I'm not worried about it.
Oh, also, if at any point you hear a strange like yelling growl noise,
Okay.
that's just my toilet in the other room.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I came home from work, I went pee,
and
the toilet went like, and then like there was like rusty water in it.
Oh, that's.
And then I just flushed it again, and it was fine. And I'm just gonna pretend that's fine.
Okay,
That's totally normal.
Here's the thing: if something goes wrong, it'll be wrong twice in a row. So if it's not wrong twice in a row, then it's not your problem anymore.
Well, I'm hoping so. Have I ever told you about what happened to our kitchen sink?
I don't know.
Okay,
I know there's been a lot of shit.
So for a long time, sorry, listeners, we'll get into the episode soon. For a long time, if we turned off the sink wrong or like I don't know, didn't believe in it enough or whatever, it would start making this like loud fucking noise, like loud noise. And we told them about it, and they were like, "Hey, that'll work itself out. It's something with the aerator of the sink." And I'm like,
"Okay,
I call bullshit, but whatever. I'm not a plumber." So finally, it started getting worse. Like we couldn't run the washing machine if we weren't here because it would just start randomly going, and then we'd have to go turn on and off the kitchen sink when the washing machine ran. Then it was like turning on the shower. Then it was flushing the toilet, and I'm like, guys, something is happening. So finally they come out and they're like, okay, cool. There was they came out this week. This has been for 6 months. So they came out for this week. And they were like, okay, there was a pipe. There was like something loose under your toilet. And there was something loose under your sink, or something loose on your toilet and something loose under your sink. So they tightened two things, and the sound has stopped.
Okay.
So I'm thinking tightening something in the toilet, they might have like jostled a pipe, and there's just like rust on the pipe that's now feeding through the toilet and will eventually filter out. So I'm not too concerned. Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, if something's wrong with it, like they're going to come replace it.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, you might want to get on that now if there's a 6-month turnaround time, even if it's not too good yet.
Here's the thing. If we call them and they're like, we'll get there when we get there, I'm going to tell them like, I'm still shitting in this. So understand that any problems that are caused by whatever is being caused, if they're exacerbated by human shit and you don't feel like dealing with that, come faster.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there. Because there's one toilet and you think I'm not using it, you're wrong.
What choice do you have?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Right. You know what's even more unbelievable than that? Since the last time we were on here?
What?
I got a new phone. My old one was officially like not staying on the charger, or
I'm
like
not even joking you, dude.
Anymore.
So here's the thing. You texted me 2 or 3 days ago.
Okay.
And I got an RCS text message from you, which I know you have no idea what that means. Mm-hmm. But I was like, holy shit, did Nick get a new phone? And then I was like, maybe he's just texting me from his iPad or something. Like there's other logical things that can happen.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad I was right. So anyway, I'll show you. I'll show you real quick. It's such a small thing.
Interesting.
So,
but just know I only got it because I physically like couldn't use the other one to play music anymore, and that's where I draw a very hard line.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want our text messages to be on, but it switches from, it just has our text convo, and then it says RCS chat with Nicholas, which is rich chat service or whatever. It's something it improves the encryption of the text messages.
I see.
And it also gives you this like double check mark that I can see when it's sent.
Okay.
And I was like, these are things that weren't working with Nick before, but had worked with other newer iPhones.
Ah, I see.
Which one did you get?
The 16.
You got the newest one.
Yeah, that was. I asked them for whatever the dumbest one that they had was that had the least bells and whistles.
Nick,
They're like, what are you going to use it for? I'm like, I'm going to listen to music and call and text, and that's it. You can like try to show me the other features. I will forget about it or ignore them. This
listen,
phone's going to be in black and white the whole time I have it. I don't want anything to do with it.
I am happy for the sake of you are now able to be kept up with things. Also, I'm very sorry that all of your chargers no longer work
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
because they're all USB-C
But
now.
here's the thing. It's been like a week.
Yeah.
I haven't plugged it in yet.
You haven't needed to
I
because you don't
plug it
use your
in
phone for
because
anything.
when I drive and I have it like Apple CarPlay on
and that's
for music,
enough.
and just when I'm in my car has been enough. Where again, I've had it for a week. I'm currently at 100% battery.
Yeah, listen. It's good stuff, dude. It's good stuff. As much as I dislike iPhones in general, I'm glad you got a new phone. You needed one.
Yeah, I did.
You needed one a year ago, but you definitely needed one now. So cool. I'm proud of you.
We've brought to the live portion.
Of course. All right. And with that being said, let's get started with the episode.
All right. Well, then I'll count you in.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. I was like, as I pressed start, I was like, okay, what song? And then I was like, wait.
Nope.
Wait. I can do this. And then I couldn't do it. I was gonna do something about the last album of my band because that first song would have been funny to do.
Okay.
But no chance.
Yeah. I couldn't have done it either. It might be a while. Well, next week I could do it, but it would be an instrumental introduction, I guess, where we would just have to like take the melody line and
there are worse things to have.
That's true. But we're in a rough patch.
Yeah, we're in the dark ages of the intro song, and that's okay.
Yeah, it is.
It's supposed to have its ebbs and flows.
Absolutely. We're going to appreciate them all the more when you have them.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Oh man, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone?
That's right.
How is this showing up on the green screen?
I don't know.
It's black.
Yeah. Oh, no. Okay. If you hold it close enough to your camera, it starts to be see-through.
It's so weird. All right, whatever. Yeah. That's not a problem. If you're an audio listener, how are you an audio listener?
I don't know. We don't do that anymore.
Well, I mean, to be fair,
you just put on a YouTube video and like walk away.
So that's what I was going to say. So I will like listen to things at work on my headphones. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it'll be like a podcast and sometimes it'll just be like a YouTube video podcast that I just lock my phone because I have YouTube Premium. So it just will still play.
Okay.
And so maybe that's the niche. The niche is me at work.
Well, that's a good thing because I think that's the only person listening.
That's true. Yeah. All right. What is up, everybody? What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Totem Talks. This is season 8, episode 12.
That's right.
And we are going crazy. We are officially insane. We have done it. If you are unfamiliar with Totem Talks, we are a music podcast where we have been sanctioned by
Zoroaster.
Music. Yes, we have been sanctioned by the Music Council, the secret council of musicians.
Right.
Which, if you're not a musician, you never heard of them, and if you are a musician, you can't talk about them. So they don't exist, everybody. But we've been sanctioned by them to find the greatest musical artist of all time. We have been, toiling away for 8 seasons.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of millions of artists have walked through our doors.
At least.
Yeah. Certainly feels like it. And we are discovering if we're going to find the greatest artist of all time.
Yeah, we may or we may not.
Now, Nick, I have a serious question for you.
Of course.
Did we find them today?
No. But I think there are interesting things to discuss today. And I will leave it at that.
We'll take that. We'll take that. I mean, after last week,
Yeah, last week was not as fun.
I can pretty confidently say, regardless of our opinions on these two bands, which we will discuss at length, that's literally the point of this. That's the whole point. I think both artists will score higher than our winner last week, though. That's my prediction.
It would be almost impossible for you to be wrong.
I'm just saying.
It's a great prediction.
I didn't say it was a. I didn't say it was a hot take prediction.
No.
I said it was just a prediction.
Very cool take. But let me tell you who we are in fact covering.
Oh yeah, please do.
Yeah. We're kicking things off with 10,000 Maniacs.
What a number!
Indeed. And then we are following that up with the Manic Street Preachers. So that's our
okay. Well, I think without any further ado, then Nick, or maybe a little ado, but probably not much ado, we're gonna take over with 10,000 Maniacs. So 10,000 Maniacs is
a band,
an American alternative rock band. And they were founded in 1981. They are still currently active, according to the Wikipedia.
That's right.
And we covered 3 albums. We started with Secrets of the I Ching from 1983. We followed that up with 1987's In My Tribe. And then we closed it out with 2015's Twice Told Tales. And Nick, as your artist, take it away, buddy.
I would love to. So, first of all, I have to say, I was preparing for this. I was getting everything up, and I was like taking a look at the album pages on Wikipedia, as I tend to like take a quick look at them before I put them on.
Sure.
So something catches my eye before I even listen to the first one, and it's Robert Christgau's review. And he said, okay, so he's going to mention someone named Natalie. It's Natalie Merchant. She's the lead singer. And his review is, not only does Natalie inflect the English language as if she grew up speaking some Polynesian tongue, but she writes lyrics to match. Okay, there's a little bit more of it than that, but that's all I needed to hear. And I'm like, foolishly, I haven't listened to the album yet. I'm like, I don't really know what he could possibly mean by that, but I love a good accent. So I'd love to hear someone sing with an accent. That'll be fun. Here we go. And we jump in and I hear the music start. And I'll tell you, the songwriting on this album is like if the Smiths had a little bit more reggae influence into their writing. And I loved the music. Natalie Merchant didn't say a single word in English the entire album.
No, she did not.
No idea what was said in any of these songs. I mean, it was bizarre. Like, she doesn't have a bad voice or anything. Like, the timbre of her voice, I could totally dig a band where she was the lead singer. But what was she saying?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
It's so
I want to be
weird.
clear. Natalie Merchant is from Jamestown, New York.
Right.
Like, she's from New York. She is. I don't understand. I couldn't understand a single word either.
Not a single word. It was bizarre. So I guess, like, did I like the way this record sounded? Yeah. Did I like all the instrumentals to it? Oh, yeah. Like, I totally dug this record. But I guess I sort of enjoyed it in a way that I would enjoy a record that was, like, sung in Japanese. Where I could really enjoy the musical aspects of the song and the melody and, like, the quality of someone's voice. But I like almost have to just put it in an entirely different category to enjoy it. So I'm not like distracted trying to make sense out of what is clearly just singing in tongues.
It's so true. Okay.
So that's how I felt.
Listen, I agree with almost everything you just said. Musically, really good to listen to. But it's definitely not in English. I don't understand. I am one that would almost want to disagree with Robert Costco. I want to disagree
I know
with
that you
him.
do. I often do too.
And I can't agree with him more. He's exactly right. She is not singing in English. The affectation on her voice is wild.
It just makes
Pleasant.
sense.
She's a pleasant singer.
Sure.
She has a good voice, as you mentioned, but wild stuff. But the music was both very good and completely not what I was expecting.
Yeah,
When you hear a band called 10,000 Maniacs,
that's totally
it
fair.
puts a vibe, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like,
I might have expected the first album from the other band that we listened to this week from them in this year.
fair.
But we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Fair. But all that to say, like, I did enjoy listening to this album. It was a good listen once I got used to the genre being completely different and basically listening to a non-English album.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was worse than just listening to a non-English album because like I should understand these
Yeah,
words.
because I can just like put on like I like a couple records that aren't in English, and I have
Yeah.
no problem just putting them on. I'm like, I don't even have to listen. I just like enjoy it as another instrument. I'm not trying to decipher any meaning. I just like,
I literally have listened to international music, but specifically the song Les Leons by Yannick Noah for 20 years. So I get it.
Sure.
I have forced you to listen to that song. I was like,
I
you'll
know.
like it. And you did.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the second album, In My Tribe. We have some differences here.
Yes.
The music is different. This album is more like alt rocky with like a little bit of folk thrown in. It's a different sound, although it's still a similar vibe. And
I think
again,
it still has that same shimmer of Smithsiness to it.
Yes.
I think, but that is consistent from both albums.
that is consistent, which is then what I would consider the 10,000 Maniacs sound.
Yeah.
That coupled with, of course, some type of lyric that probably means something to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I would assume it means something to Natalie Merchant as she sings it. And maybe one or two people even understand it. And that's important.
Okay. That's
They're more,
interesting.
the
I
lyrics
understood.
are more,
I said
yeah.
one word into this album. I understood more than I did for the entire
The
first
lyrics
album.
are more intelligible.
Yeah, this is definitely in English. I didn't catch
Yeah.
everything the first time I listened to it, but it was definitely in English this time.
Yes. It's weird too because like it's the same voice now singing.
Yeah.
It's like she went to like a speech pathology course in between albums or something.
Yeah.
It's not clear as a bell. There's still like some type of affectation to her style of singing. It's so funny. Like I'm assuming people have heard of singing in cursive.
Sure.
Are you familiar with singing in cursive?
Yeah, just like very legato.
Well, no. So singing in cursive, specifically what it means in like the pop culture is like that old school John Mayer sound. Like, why are you really doing this with your voice? That's what I would consider singing in cursive in terms of like what it's called in pop culture.
Okay.
Natalie Merchant is what actually singing in cursive is. And it's somebody who is just from New York singing in English. And I don't understand a word on that first album. No. This album, she is singing in actual words.
Yes.
And I think it does make for that, coupled with the artistic changes, makes for a stronger album.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
I
overall,
agree.
I think it's a stronger album. I think it's more enjoyable. And that's it.
Okay. Now, question for you. I don't know if you heard it. It was not on my version of the album. Did your version of the album have their cover of Peace Train?
It did not, but I went and found it because I read about the thing.
Yeah, exactly. So that was just that like it was originally released with Peace Train as one of the singles and a song on the album. It was like actually one of their bigger hits in the States. They played it on Saturday Night Live. But after 1987, it was removed from all further copies of that album because of the comments that Yusuf Islam, Cat Stevens, made about the fatwa and Salman Rushdie.
Yeah.
So interesting little fact about that. I have a lot of the same comments. Like, I like that there was actually some diction on this record. I still think that they're writing very good pop rock tunes. I think this, if you want to talk about like sounds that sound 80s that I think are really, really great, like this, dig into this part of the 80s sound for rock music. I like this.
Yeah.
Also, Michael Stipe. Did you know, like out of nowhere, it was one of the last songs on the record with, maybe it was City of Angels. I can't remember which one specifically, but Michael Stipe was singing like back and forth lyrics.
Yeah. Campfire song. He was the other
Yeah.
voice
Oh,
in
it's Campfire.
Campfire song.
Okay. Yeah. So that was cool to hear him from REM, if you're not
Yes.
familiar. And then it ended on like a very slow piano driven tune, which I felt like showed that they could have like a little bit more range than what their sound was before that.
Yeah.
And now I'll go to Twice Told Tales. So this is a very, very, very different album. A lot of members of the section left a long time ago. We've had a lot of people in and out at this point. Album was actually like one of those fan-driven sponsored albums. They raised the money online and people paid for them to make this record. And it's all like very old traditional folk songs from the British Isles. It was very unexpected. It was this was the album that didn't have that same exact sound that really.
Oh, they didn't add the Smith shimmer to a bunch of British folk songs?
Yeah, I mean, look, I really like the opening number and the closing number, the Lady Mary Ramsey 1 and 2, where they were just like really beautiful violin pieces. And it is cool to hear violin on these songs and to hear something different. They all start to sound the same a little bit at some point.
Well, they all start to sound the same because they were all set to music by the same person.
There you go.
And it's, yeah. Listen, this album is fine. A couple of these songs are good. Yeah, this album is fine in doses. This is not an album that's meant to be listened through as an album. And like, at the end of the day, what is there really to say? It's an album of traditional British folk songs.
Yeah.
I don't have more to say than that. It's fine. It's done. It's done well. It's done well, but like, not a single song, not a single traditional British folk song is like tickling my musical fancy, really.
Yeah.
That's all. And like, that's for better or worse. If you are somebody who enjoys traditional British folk, you might enjoy this album if you haven't heard of it. It's an honest rendition of the songs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But definitely the worst of the three albums.
Yeah, I would agree. So let me start talking about this group as they are mine. I'll kick you off with the unique thing about them. And I kind of struggled to figure this out. But then something kind of hit me. This is a band that had 3 straight platinum or multi-platinum releases in the United States and did not have a single top 40 hit with any of them.
That is pretty unique.
Yeah,
honestly.
They didn't get their first top 40 hit until well after, when they released their MTV Unplugged and their cover of Because the Night by Patti Smith.
Hey.
Little 6 Degree there.
Our second one so far.
Charted at 11. So that was the first time that happened. And then their highlight is going to be that MTV Unplugged. Because this was their best-selling album. It was triple platinum. They did have a couple other albums go double and one single. So they did very well. But they got their most sales and their highest charting ever single from it, obviously. So that's, I think, where this band highlights, especially because they did that performance and Natalie Merchant like announced that she was leaving the band before that album came out. So it was kind of the last, 10,000 Maniacs album with Natalie Merchant. And so that makes it a pretty big deal for them. Now, on that record, if you get the bonus track version of their MTV Unplugged, you get a couple more 6 Degrees because David Byrne of Talking Heads fame comes out and plays a couple songs with them, including Dolly Parton's Jolene.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So we're up to a bunch of 6 degrees so far.
Yeah, we're just throwing them. But the other 6 degrees that I can give you are that Mary Ramsey, the current singer, violinist, violist with the group, has played on albums for both Warren Zevon and Ani DeFranco.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mentioned that they kind of crowdfunded their last album. They used a website called Pledge Music, and Sum 41 also used that website to crowdfund their 2013 album, 13 Voices.
Wow.
So I think I've hit on everything that I can hit on.
I think you might have.
So I'm going to go to the low light next.
Oh.
2 members of the group have passed away. So Robert Buck died on December 19th, 2000 of liver disease at only 42 years old.
That's sad.
Very upsetting. And Robert Wachter died. He was only 49 in 2013. So a couple of the members of the band have died young, very unfortunately. But I think the lowest point that the band ever hit was right after Natalie Merchant left, before they had 100% secured the legal rights to continue using the name 10,000 Maniacs. They went by John and Mary, Rob, Steve, Dennis, and Jerry.
Come on. Come on. You can't
Because
do that.
They invited a duo called John and Mary, who is, the same Mary who's in the band, Mary Ramsey, who's still in the band. So I guess they named the duo plus all the other members of the band, and they just wrote out all their first names.
I mean, fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating that they did that. All right.
And I guess the meanest thing is maybe the whole Natalie Merchant leaving the band situation, because she quote didn't want art by committee anymore, and basically the moment she announced that she was leaving, Elektra dropped the band off their record and then signed Merchant as a solo artist.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah,
that's no bueno.
So that all happened. But the nicest thing is, from what I can see, they have definitely supported a number of charitable causes through concerts or just donations, like Greenpeace, Doctors Without Borders, Southern Center for Human Rights. They've done some things for stem cell research. So all good stuff. They are definitely seeming to be a charitable organization. And that's
okay.
The Maniacs.
Well, I guess without any further ado, then let's talk about the Manic Street Preachers.
Should I pee first? I don't know if I'm going to make it.
You can pee first.
We used to take a halftime, and I
yeah, we still can take a halftime.
Okay, short halftime. I'll be back.
This is the time. Oh, man.
Okay, did I make it back in time?
You just made it. You really just made it.
I was worried. Okay.
Okay.
Now I'm ready.
Well, you better be. All right, let's get this rolling. All right. Okay. So, Manic Street Preachers, also known simply as the Manics.
Of course.
They are a Welsh rock band formed in Blackwood, Carefully. in 1986, and they are still active today. Covered 3 albums as always. We started with Generation Terrorists, which came out in 1992, just a little bit before we did in
That's right.
1992. Just pre-released us by a few months. Then we followed that up with This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours from 1998. And then Critical Thinking from 2025. Just
That's
Valentine's Day of 2025.
Love it.
So recently. And that was our third album here. So they're my band. So we'll get started. And this is another group. I had no clue going into this.
No idea. Me neither.
Completely unknowledgeable.
This is the blindest I've gone in a while.
Yeah. Now, I will say, I saw the album art and I made a guess. And I wasn't that far off because I saw the year. It was like early 90s. And I saw it's just a shirtless dude with like a cross and like a tattoo that has the album title on it. And I was like, okay, this screams like metalish, grungy.
Okay.
Like those are my two thoughts, metal, grungy.
Okay, I was thinking punk when I saw it.
So I was hoping it wasn't punk.
Sure, but I was thinking when I saw the album cover, that was my instinct.
Sure, it's a good instinct. We both hit both ends of the spectrum because this is theoretically a glam punk album.
Yeah.
But it's more glam rock. It's a glam rock album. And it's significantly better than I thought it would be. I will say that. I don't love glam rock. For the most part.
It's a hair album, really.
Yes.
This is like hair metal, but
this is hair metal. And that is typically like kind of the death knell because like I like a hair metal song here or there, but I rarely like a hair metal album.
Right.
That's just kind of how it's worked out in my life. When I listen to a full album of hair metal, I get bored. This album, I didn't really get bored, and there was a lot of good things, but I didn't love it.
Yeah,
I liked it, but I didn't love it.
I think that's totally fair.
Yeah, I mean, some positives. I did enjoy James Dean Bradfield's singing, as well as his guitar. Mm-hmm. So I did like his contributions. I thought the band sounded good as a whole. I thought they did some interesting things. I thought they had a little bit more variance on a song basis than I typically expect from the style of music. All that's positive. That's kind of what it was. It was fine.
Yeah, I largely have to agree with you here, actually. I was definitely surprised that it was like a hair metal record, especially given that it was a debut in 92. Not that hair metal was completely dead by 92, but like grunge had clearly made its, opening by that point, and hair was on its way out. So to hear a band start there that late was a little shocking for me. But at the same time, they're doing it with much better songwriting than I think most of those other groups that were famous for doing the style of music. You mentioned like the guitar playing is definitely quite good. Probably less guitar solos than most other hair records, actually. But when they were there, they were always done really well. And I think like it's about as positive of a review as I can give to a genre of music that I just like wouldn't choose to listen to.
Totally.
Like
fair.
I think they did what they needed to do really well there. But like I don't like the genre, so like I didn't mind listening to it. If it was like a 40-minute album, I might have even liked it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the other big negative for this album it was 73
Yeah,
minutes
way too
long.
much. Like
And
they
that
had a lot
is,
more variance in their songwriting and style than a lot of other groups in that,
yeah.
but not enough to get through 73 minutes.
I mean, dude, if they had 73 minutes written like other glam metal acts that we have covered,
Hmm.
like other hair metal albums, but 73 minutes versions of it, we'd be singing a very different tune, and the
That's
tune would
fair.
be us yelling incoherently into the mic because
Yeah.
we became the 10,001st maniac
Yeah.
and lost
Indeed.
our fucking mind.
Yeah.
All right,
Now,
that's yeah.
I'm going to move on to This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours. And this album is 63 minutes and change long. And after having gotten through the first one, I can tell you, well, again, I didn't hate the first one or anything. I was not excited for this. And then the first song started and it was completely different.
Yep.
This was like night and day. And this was so much better for me because the one thing I really praised about the first album was how good I thought the guitar playing and writing was. But the one thing about when you're playing all the songs in that style is it's like you set your one distortion tone and every rhythm and lead part is that tone on every song all the way through. All like there's so much variance in guitar tones and effects used on this record. Way more variation in their songwriting in like more of a style that I would say is influenced by Britpop, maybe. It sounded a little bit more Verve or Oasis to me
Yeah.
on this record. And you got more variance in instrumentation. Like you'd have a song here and there that would try something weird. Like I think it was Tsunami, track 5 had a sitar. So I mean, this song had orchestras on several of the songs playing string parts.
Yeah.
This was so much better than the first album. This was really good. It's arguably the best album of the week.
Yeah, I would go more. I would say it's definitely the best album of the week. I mean, I completely agree with everything you're saying. I thought musically this was a complete breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
First album was good. This album was significantly better. It led into that like alt rock Britpop space in a really great way. And I thought every song was different but evocative of the same sound. And I think that is kind of exactly what you want out of a band. And there's two kind of things to talk about with this album. I think lyrically, the album is not quite as strong. So there's a theme for this band, which we'll discuss a little more on the third album. But there's a theme for this band where they do sing about current events.
Mm-hmm.
And I always appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I always appreciate singing about about current events. They did run into a bit of controversy here. They did release the final track called SYMM, which is an abbreviation of South Yorkshire Mass Murderer, which is the reference to the Hillsborough disaster of 1989, in which 97 people died in a human crush during an association football match at Hillsborough Stadium. So that's what that song's about. There was some controversy about it. It was the police were being like widely condemned for their actions during the event.
Okay.
And it was still currently going on during the time. Obviously, it was still being discussed, and the song came out, and it was a little controversial, but just something to say.
Yeah.
And then I do think lyrically on this one, you're getting a little closer to the nose of the lyrics. Like, you know, they're not quite on the nose here,
Well, how would
but
they
they're on
compare
the
to
face.
the first 10,000 Maniacs album?
There's no way of knowing. There's no. You can show me a transcript of that album, and I won't believe you.
Yeah.
But you know, more good in the lyrical space than bad on this album. I do think slightly more adept at like metaphor on the first album.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'll take us into the third album. It's time to do some critical thinking. And the first thing I will say is we have found the nose. we are We are distinctly on the nose on the lyrics on this one. This album is musically fine if you skip the title track, because the title track is
weird,
fucking weird. It's very
weird.
It's literally like I'll tell you the title track. It's literally like I can't even think of the exact things they say, but it's like live, laugh, love, like, you know, happiness, critical thinking, like that, like that's the album. Critical thinking, critical thinking, critical thinking. Like it's like a bunch of stuff that you should do or should ignore, and then the words critical thinking, and that's the song.
Yeah,
it's strange. Other than that,
it's okay to not be okay. Live your best life. Be kind. Have some empathy. Speak truth.
Right, like,
power. It's your lived experience. Be your authentic self.
Like it's like a fucking self-help book in a song. It's weird. It's very on the nose, and that is a theme of this album. Lyrically, there's no hiding it. There's no, not even hiding it, but there's no like painting the words. It's just like speeches set to music.
Yeah.
Which is not my favorite style of that. It was very reminiscent. You know what is very reminiscent of? That last Bon Jovi album we listened to when we covered Bon Jovi, where it was like, I agree with your messages, but like, dear Lord, like it was bad. It was falling into that zone a little bit. Musically, it was still okay. I mean, I do think there was a little bit off the top here. In terms of like enjoyment, this is my 3rd of 3 for them. Mainly just because I was so torn by those lyrics. I was like, wait, it's not bad.
Yeah.
But if you're actively listening to these songs and the lyrics, you will be, I think, a little put out by how abrupt they are.
Yeah, I don't disagree with your critiques. I mean, my first feeling, other than the title track, which again, just bizarre. But other than that, I was glad that, you know, given the first 2 records, if they were going to continue along with one of those genres or sounds, I was really hoping it was going to be the second one. And it was. So
there's a reason.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out good for the music for my listening tastes, whatever that reason is.
You're a monster.
I said for my listening tastes for the music only. Like there's still some moments of songwriting cleverness. There's still some cool parts here and there. But like not nearly to the level of the second record. So it's sort of like if you took their really good record, This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours, and said, okay, well, there's going to be 10 albums in between, and each one gets just like the same general idea and kind of some cool sounds, but like a little less and a little less. You know, if the first album was an A, then the one after that was like a high B plus, and then maybe a low B plus, and then a B, and then a low B and a B minus, and like you get all the way down as you go. But it wasn't bad.
It wasn't.
And that's what
it wasn't bad. Lyrically, it was rough. It wasn't bad. Lyrically, the lyrics are why it was my 3rd of 3. I would have preferred, I think, Natalie Merchant's lyrical style of just not singing in English. That would have fit. If that album came out with Natalie Merchant's lyrical style, it would have not been my 3rd of 3. The first one would have.
Fair enough.
All right, I'll tell you a little bit about Manic Street Preachers.
Please.
We'll start with the unique thing, which I just thought was interesting. So the unique thing is when the 4-piece band, the initial band, signed to Sony Records, they put out the album Generation Terrorists, and their claim was it's going to sell 16 million copies, and then the band would immediately break up. They were very sure about that. They're like, we're going to release one double album. It's going to go #1 worldwide, and then we're splitting up. And that's pretty unique to me because, like,
is that what happened?
No, it's not what happened. So the album ended up selling like 200,000 copies or something in Britain, which, like, is not bad
Still
in
pretty
Britain
good.
because there's not a lot of people there in
No,
terms of
that's
the.
good. I would love to sell 200,000
I'd love
copies
to
of
sell
anything.
200 copies of something.
Yeah, agreed.
2,000, like whatever. But
Yeah.
Nicky Wire did like kind of level up that comment because he's like, yeah, and when we split up, we're going to set ourselves on fire on top of the Pops. So like, I thought that was pretty unique. What a mindset. Like, what a
Yeah.
mindset to go in and really fail at your goal of only releasing one album and dipping because you've released significantly
True.
more than one album and not dipped.
You're very right.
Now, highlight, it does have to be This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours. It was received by far the strongest of their albums, multiple 4 or 5-star reviews. It sold extremely well. For the most part, it was like kind of the reinvention of their sound. As you had mentioned, as we had talked about, it was a positive reinvention for the masses, which is part of the reason it sold so well. It's hard to not make that. I mean, it went triple platinum in Britain and gold in a bunch of other places. Their album before that, 1996's Everything Must Go, also went triple platinum in Britain. And also, I think, was the beginning of their sound shift. It was kind of both of those albums.
Gotcha.
The reason for the shift in their sound is the low light. So, the band was more and more performing as a trio in the year 1995 because Richie James, the rhythm guitarist, was struggling. We'll say struggling. He was struggling with multiple issues, depression, drug abuse, anorexia, self-harm, a lot of struggles, and was still in the band. And then on February 1st of 1995, he disappeared. They were supposed to be flying, him and James Dean Bradfield were supposed to be flying to the United States for a promotional tour of their album, The Holy Bible. And now, The Holy Bible, just to kind of tangentially talk about it for just a second here, it came out in 1994. And this is when all of Richie James's struggles were coming to light. And the album is kind of written about that, written about his pain.
Okay.
And he disappeared. He didn't show up. For the next couple weeks after that, his car was seen kind of around his childhood hometown. He ran into a couple people, like a couple fans had seen him, but didn't know he was missing. It wasn't like publicized at that point.
Right.
And he was never seen again. And he's presumed dead. And his body was never found. And the band never added another member. They just went on as a trio, and their sound changed accordingly to losing him and his influence. Yeah, it's crazy. It was like it's a crazy situation. So it was literally, he just disappeared. There were sightings of him. His car was eventually found near the Severn Bridge. So, we're not sure, but he literally just picked up his wallet, car keys, some Prozac, and a passport and dipped. And he was not legally declared dead until he was missing for 30 years. He was declared dead in absentia in 2008.
Okay.
So I would consider that the low light of the band, for sure.
I would too.
Okay, so moving on. I don't have a meanest thing for the band. I do have a nicest thing. So they basically had been champions of NHS for a long time.
Sure.
And they actually donated £35,000 in support of the Cardiff and Vale Health Charity, which was during the recovery phase of COVID. So a good little donation from them.
Yeah.
Obviously, any donations in that time were very valued, and kudos to them for doing that. And then the 6 Degrees was a little tougher. This band did not interact with nearly as many former Totem Talks members as your
Right.
band did. I
Right.
did, however, find that James Dean Bradfield considers his number one guitar influence John McGeoch, who is the lead guitarist for Susie and the Banshees.
Right.
And he
Yeah.
literally he said he taught me you can have that rock and roll swagger, but still build something into it that's really unsettling and can cut like a razor blade. And I thought that was a very interesting 6 Degrees of when are we going to
that's
really
cool.
find Susie and the Banshees? They were not everywhere that we covered.
No, we haven't used them yet.
But that was it. And mostly I just had to talk about Richie James Edwards, who went by Richie James or Richie Manic. Bunch of names for him. But a very crazy story. And I recommend maybe reading a little more into it. I'm not just going to sit here and read the whole article. So, do your own research. But it's an interesting read for sure. And a deeply troubled man. For sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, let's do some grading. I think both these artists, considering I didn't really know anything about either one of them coming in, both of them do a little bit better than I expected because they both had popularity in their respective home countries that was like significant popularity over the course of their careers. So obviously I mentioned before, Manic Street Preachers have had 4 different albums go platinum or multi-platinum in the US. Like throughout the late 80s into the early 90s, they were extremely successful in the United States. We're playing on TV and all that other stuff. Less success with the singles specifically, as I mentioned. But still, like they're clearly a popular band with a big audience and a draw. So I think they have to have some points here, even though I missed them personally.
I don't disagree with you. I think the number is slightly lessened by the continuation of the band, I want to say. Like after 1992, they didn't have a single other charting performance.
Yeah, right. They dropped once she left.
Yeah, once Natalie Merchant left the band,
their record deal, their fans.
So that does have to affect them a little bit. And the fact that I've heard of Natalie Merchant, even though I couldn't tell you a single song she sings, and had no idea she was in this band.
Although I've heard of the band, to be fair, I obviously put them on the list because I've heard of them, but I didn't know their music. I'm looking for like in the vicinity of 2 points. I think
2 points is a great score. I do.
Okay.
Now,
Manic Street Preachers is just like they didn't hit the United States. They clearly were very popular in Britain, and they had popularity throughout Europe.
Yeah, I think.
So that's, again, points not here, but from a lot of other places.
Yeah, I just think it's important to say every album. Now, this is not necessarily a bunch of sales because it's Britain, but every album they released between 1992 and 2013 achieved a certification in Britain. So, and that is a lot of albums because they released 15 total albums, which we'll talk about. 11 of them are included in that. So 11 albums certified in at least Britain, with a chunk of them certifying in multiple other countries. Yeah. So they are definitely involved in Europe.
Oh, for sure. And it's, I mean, to be totally fair to them, like for understanding of the British system is it's $250,000 for gold and $500,000 for platinum. So like they're easily exceeding all of our, sales requirements.
Yeah, well, yeah,
they're doing very
for sure.
Well. So I don't know. I'd be willing to give them probably in the 2s somewhere.
I think I would say like anywhere between a 2 and a 2.5, and I'm leaning closer to the lower end, so maybe like a 2.2.
2.2 it is. Excellent. We've got some breadth of work. We've got 9 10,000 Maniacs albums. Only 9,991 left to go. I'm sure they'll be coming out very shortly. Buckethead will
Yeah,
get there.
Buckethead will get to 10,000 easy.
So there's that. I mentioned they have enough sales that they're probably getting a little bit of a
Yeah.
boost here. Their 4 highest selling albums are like 8 million and plus in sales in the US, not including worldwide sales or sales of anything else. So I think we're probably adding on to the 5.5 to either a 5.7 or a 5.8.
Yeah, I think a 5. Let's give him a 5.7.
You got it. And then I'm struggling.
Okay.
Second album, definitely a positive. First album, like mostly a positive, but bizarre with the vocals.
Bizarre.
And the third album, I think, was just too much. But it wasn't bad, and I wouldn't take or give anything. So maybe 0.2, maybe. I'm going to give them 0.2. And then I'll,
I'm going to give them a 0.1. I did the same math as you and came out even on the first album because the lyrics, whatever that was, took me from positive music, negative lyrics, equal total.
A wash.
So.
Okay. Manic Street
15
Preachers, 15 albums. 6.1 to begin. Definitely enough sales that I think we are adding a little bit here. Probably we can't add more than a 0.2. I think they have less sales.
I would only even add the 0.1 personally.
Okay. 6.2 it is. And then what would you like to do with their score?
So this one is interesting. So I think the first album I would give a 0.2 because it's too long, and it is too long. But it's an album where you took something that I generally dislike and made me pretty okay to listen to 73 straight minutes of it.
Sure.
And that's an accomplishment in terms of my enjoyment. And I think there was a lot there. And I really enjoyed like Richie Manic, Richie James, Richie Edwards. He had a bunch of names. But Richie James is the primary lyric writer of the first album, and I thought that was the strongest the lyrics were because they were still talking about current events, but not like beating you over the head with them. They require you. I like songs that require you to like a song and then like look into it and then be like, I love the message as well. That's my favorite style of music. Music that like as a listener of music, I want music that makes me think, makes me enjoy, and then also makes me think. And I think that album did well at both of those things. Second album, big plus for me. I would give at least a 0.2 to that. So I'm at a 0.3 so far. And then that third album, I think I'm just going to leave alone because I'm
going to take away 0.1 for the first song.
Right. Like that's what it is. Like the first song is so bizarre that I would want to take away points for how bizarre it is. But I think musically, the rest of the album is really strong. And the lyrics, while bad, were a wash with how acceptably good the music was. So I'm going to leave it alone. Yeah. So they get a 0.3 from me.
And I'm going to give them a 0.2, and I'm just going to be like, it's like a 0.24 rounded down, and the other one was like a 0.18 rounded up or something. But 0.2 is all around. Instrumental talent. I think that I enjoyed a lot of moments from both bands. I think the guitar playing for Manic Street Preachers was the best thing I heard this week, but it wasn't bad for 10,000 Maniacs either. So if I had to give my who was the best musician award out, it would be to the guitarists of Manic Street Preachers.
Which is James Dean Bradfield.
So I think they get. I'm going to give the slight edge there, but I don't think either of these bands suffered here. This was not an issue.
No, I don't think that. I don't think that at all. I think I will give the edge as well to guitar to Manic Street Preachers. And I'm also going to give the edge vocally to Manic Street Preachers, which I wasn't expecting because I really liked Natalie Merchant's voice. And I thought the new singer, when she came in on that third album, also did a passable job. Although, I mean, you're basically.
Oh wait, was she putting on an accent for that third album?
Right? She had to be.
Why was she?
I don't know.
That?
Well, I thought she might just be British.
No,
so I didn't look into her as a person, but I just
I
assumed
looked
when
it
I
up.
heard the album was traditional Brit folk and it was sung with an accent, I just assumed they got a new British lead singer who I had no idea that it was a crowd-funded. Why you would crowd-fund a British folk album
That's
is
what I don't
very
get.
confusing.
Like a new album of original music or
Yeah,
something,
it's
maybe?
all. I was
Or
confused by that
I don't
whole
know.
situation.
Well, I would hope they at least said what they were gonna
I would
do,
assume they
and then
did.
people, like, chose
The
that.
fact that there weren't
Yeah.
riots in the street, because if I put
Yeah.
forth money for an album expecting original music of a band and got what I received there, I would be angry. So I don't think that happened.
Yeah. That's fair.
But I think vocally, this is. I'm towing water here that I don't like to tow. At his absolute best, and there were a couple songs where he hit this. While I don't think he has the range and I don't think he has the overall talent, he touched
Mhm.
on reminding me of Freddie Mercury in the timbre of his
Interesting.
voice.
Okay, I wrote down who
Yeah.
does he sound like by the 3rd album. I was like, there's something buried in my brain, and I can't figure out what it is.
There were a couple songs where he like really let
Oh,
loose.
and Natalie Merchant sounds kinda like Chrissy
She
Hynde.
does. If Chrissy Hynde
They
sung
both
in Simlish,
were like yeah,
Simlish is the language of
exactly.
the video game The Sims, Nick.
The Sims. I didn't
I
know
wasn't
that.
sure if you knew.
I'm married to a
Oh,
Simmer, so
good. I'm glad somebody is bringing you into the 19th century.
eventually. I mean,
Not
I
the
haven't
20th or
looked
the
at it.
21st, but
She
you're at
does it
least
on
the
her own.
19th.
Yeah, I'm
You're in the
getting there.
wax cylinder age. All right. Now, I still think we give the edge to Manic Street Preachers for this.
Yeah, I just think both are over
Agreed.
5. And I would be like, okay, given like a 5.2 or something to 10,000
Yeah, I think
Maniacs.
my numbers that are jumping out to me are a 5.2 and a 5.7.
I love it. Songwriting. I will say that on all of the original music, I think that we're again in positive scores for both of
Yeah.
these artists. I don't know how I feel about The Edge. I feel like there was a more consistent sound to the original music of 10,000 Maniacs, and I really, really liked that sound. I really liked what they did with their songwriting. But Manic Street Preachers also like wrote well enough in a genre that I don't like to make me not hate it, which is definitely impressive to me. And then their second album was completely different
And completely
very good.
different and better. And
Yeah.
I think their third album was really saved by the songwriting. So I think I
Sure.
again think we might be giving the
Yeah.
slight edge to Manic Street Preachers here.
Yeah, but again, I think I would say these are higher scores,
Yeah.
but both
Higher scores, but there is
definitely
also the
above.
fact that Manic Street Preachers has 6 more albums. So that's
Sure,
something as
yeah.
well. We're over the average, so we're not penalizing for less albums, but I think
No, everybody's good.
I think there's something to be said there.
I think you gotta at least go up to a 5.5 or so for 10,000
I think that's
Maniacs
fair, and
here.
I think that's impressive considering that there's an album of traditionals. So
Yeah.
it's not
Right.
it's not songwriting. So
Yeah, I guess I would have a hard time seeing how I'm not at least in the 6s for the Manic Street
I
Preachers then,
agree.
considering.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good score. I think they wrote well. I think they wrote varied. I think they experimented and expressed themselves. I think losing your primary song contributor and completely changing your sound and still having a lot of
Yeah.
success is very impressive. In fact, more success. Not to, I mean,
right.
of course, like not to besmirch, Richie James at all. But I mean, they definitely had more sales and certification success with their new genre.
You've talked me into a 6.
And I think that's a good score. I really do.
Now, here's where we're really
I mean,
cooking.
I feel really bad for 10,000 Maniacs because their first album is not in English and their third album is traditionals. It's rough.
Now, would it make you feel better if I told you that even if they got a 0 here, your prediction would still comfortably
That does
come
make me
true
feel
from
better.
the beginning of the episode? Yeah. But it's obvious it's not a 0, but like the first album is pretty close. It's as close as you can get for an English album because there were just no discernible words of English in it.
Very
That
unfortunate
kills it.
because here's the thing.
Because if I can't, like we've said this before, when it's just been like it's difficult and you have to really listen attentively
Yeah.
and you still miss some things, but you can like get a lot of it. At no point did I ever have any clue what was going on. Like legitimately, she might as well have just been like a monkey slapping a typewriter to like come up with the lyrics that she sang because it was just like, oh, she said, sure.
I was so put off by the first album. So, okay. When you listen to an album, not a sponsor, but when you listen to an album on YouTube Music, sometimes you are able to live read the lyrics. It'll go according to the song.
Mhm.
I'm sure other apps do that. I just use YouTube Music. Again, not a sponsor. I was reading the fucking words to one of the songs, and I was like, that's not that's not what's happening. You're lying to me.
Yeah.
These are not the words that are being sung right now in front of me. So, yeah, that's a big negative. The second album could have been.
I definitely heard English.
Yeah, I definitely heard English, but like realistically, and this is just unfortunate for me personally, the second album could have been of like Shakespearean quality of lyric, and it still would be a bad score because the third album is not original lyrics.
Yeah.
So 2 out of the 3 albums are basically zeros.
Correct. Yeah. So what do you want to give them 1?
I mean, here's the thing, right? To be fair to them, there are 9 albums. Yeah, there are 9 albums. I'm going to assume, right? Let's just take a peek. Let's just do this live.
Okay.
Which we do everything live.
That's right.
I'm going to assume that after the third album, so after In My Tribe, which is the second album we covered, their third released album, that the rest of the albums are in English.
Sure.
Up until the traditional folk album. Fair. Now, there's a problem here. Their other album is called Music from the Motion Picture, their second to last album in 2013. I just want to confirm something. It is original songs. Okay.
Correct.
I had to make sure that it wasn't when it's because it's called Music from the Motion Picture.
Yeah, it's not like
I needed to make sure that they didn't release 2 albums that weren't theirs. Okay. Yeah. So out of the 9 albums, I think 6 of them are counting towards being English words and lyrics.
Okay. That's fair.
I think all that to say, this is a below average score. I'm going to give them a 2.
I love it. 2 it is.
And I think I was more than fair.
Yeah, and you've already talked about the highs and the lows of the Manic Street Preachers throughout. So do you have a feeling on where you want to put them overall?
Yeah, I think if I were to give them an overall score, looking again, we're doing this live. So looking at their albums, I think their first 3, in my experience, are probably the strongest lyrically because they were the ones that Richie James partook in. I am very curious to listen to the Holy Bible, although I need to do it in a certain headspace because that sounds like a real depressing album. Because based on what it's about and knowing the story that happens afterwards, I'm going to need to be in a very good place mentally before I listen to that.
Sure.
But I'm curious too, because I think it will be a very intriguing album to listen to. I think lyrically there's a step down when the genre shifts. I think that's partially not having him around. I think maybe they're just kind of writing to the new genre, but it's still above average. And then the last album is bad. Now the question is, when does it become bad?
Who knows?
Right. And I think to give them the same benefit of the doubt, I'm giving 10,000 Maniacs. I'm going to say out of their 15 albums, I'm going to say 12 of them are above average. I think lyrically. I think that's a safe bet.
Sure.
And I think 3 of them are probably significantly above average. just based on, you know, the lyrical writing of the first album. All that to say, I'm pretty comfortable giving them a 6.
Okay. And then we have scores because there's not X Factor unless I'm crazy.
The only X factor, and I don't even want to give it, is the crazy story of Richie James.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you could give them some points there because that is just a wild tale. Like, I mean, he literally just left the hotel and was never seen again, other than like, there were various like sightings of him through the years. The same way there are Elvis sightings through the years.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think they were. I think he obviously there's no way I'm going to know. But based on where they found his car, there is a line to be drawn. His car was found next to a bridge.
The Occam's razor.
He was never seen again.
Comes into play here.
Yeah. I'm not going to say it, but the story is wild.
I'll put a 0.2 on there. Doesn't change the scores.
Didn't think it would.
Yeah. Because we have one group here who did win every category, even though I think this was a positive week, generally speaking, which was nice because we had no idea what to expect coming in.
No idea what to expect, and coming off of quite possibly the worst fucking week of this podcast in a long time.
Yeah.
Like, I was really nervous about this week. I was like, oh man, and I'm so busy. So, fun fact about my life before we tell the scores.
Sure.
To anybody who may be interested, like, I am gearing up to like go on vacation, which is going to be great. However, the lead up to that, like working, packing, getting everything ready to go, but that's all a little stressful. I got some other personal stresses going on. No big deal. But I was really worried about like, oh man, I gotta fit these 6 albums in, and I'm nervous. I have no idea. I was very happy. With the music.
Yep. Could have been so much worse.
Could have been so much worse.
And all that's to say that this week our winners are the Manic Street Preachers. And they won with a score of 27.3. And running up were 10,000 Maniacs, who did in fact break into the 20s with a 20.7. So.
And my prediction from before the episode started ranged true.
Yeah. You could take away their highest score from the score from their highest category, and they still would have won last week's episode.
Yeah, listen. Last week was a bad episode. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't. But next week is going to be so funky.
Ooh.
So I am excited for next week because it's going to be a funky episode.
Nice. Wear your nose plugs.
That's right.
All right, everybody. With that to be said, listen, I'm going to say something very important here. Something that hasn't been said for too long.
I agree.
Okay, for too long. Spay and neuter your pets.
Thank you. I thought I was the only one.
Spay and neuter your pets. It is important. There are too many strays in the world. Adoption centers are overflowing, and unfortunately overflowing into kill shelters, and nobody wants that. Just spay and neuter your pets. You don't want to handle a bunch of puppies or kittens. Neither do we.
And fuck Jerry Lee Lewis.
And fuck Jerry Lee Lewis. And while you're doing that, have a great day.
Okay. Well done.
Oh, man. Yeah, I was so nervous for this week, dude. I was like, oh, shit. And that's a good point. Okay. So I found out that the washing machine also sounded different, apparently. And the kitchen sink, like, spat. Like, did a little squirt.
That's all happening, like, right now.
But it's fine now. The kitchen sink is apparently fine now. It just had a moment with the washing machine being on, which could just be, like, you know, the whole apartment's running off of one water heater.
Okay. The sink and the washing machine,
could be a little funky together. Like, you know how you're like, if you hop in the shower when your washing machine's running, like the water's hot or weird.
Yeah, right.
So like, I'm not worried about that. Sydney's theory could be that maybe we're just used to what they sound like broken. And so now that they're working and are louder,
It's a great.
it doesn't explain the rust in the toilet when I flushed it.
No.
But the pipe, but if they tighten something.
But your earlier theory might.
Right.
It could
So
be
it
multiple
could all
theories
be-
required to understand
Yeah,
the
it
entirety.
could all be fine. I think I'm just going to operate as usual. I mean, we're leaving tomorrow. We're gone for a week. Hopefully when we come back, everything's just normal.
Yeah.
And if it's not,
maybe it just
whatever.
needed a little time off.
Yeah, right? I mean, maybe. All right. I don't know.
Me either.
Cool. All right. Well, I know this is well past. Oh, no, you're on summertime. You got at least another 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, Jackie will hopefully be home by then. So
yeah, right. Well, that's what happens, right? You see her, you wave, and then immediately pass into your slumber until the morn.
Yeah,
I'm aware. But no, that'll be good. And then I hope you have fun on Saturday.
Thank you. We'll do our best.
It'll be fun. It'll be a good time. I literally was like, I've never seen that on the calendar. Never saw it. I don't know if it was on there the whole time and I just missed it. I don't know if it got put on late.
I remember it being there for a while, but
it is what it is. I mean, luckily it's just it's a gig that I'm confident in your abilities for 3 hours.
Yeah, I can handle it. That's no big deal.
Yeah.
We'll be good. And I'll play Ohio. Look forward to that.
Yeah.
Howard dared me yesterday to sing Trump instead of Nixon.
Oh,
I don't know that I can do it though.
Howard.
Mostly because it doesn't rhyme, 10 soldiers and Trump is coming. I don't know. Instead of Nixon's coming.
Hey, here's the thing.
I'm not going to be like, one dead in Utah. That's not as good as 4 dead in Ohio.
That's not. It's not. But you know what you could do? You could. Oh, what did I do? Oh, yeah. Here you go. You know what works really well? If you just mention that Watergate may kind of bother you during Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah.
You definitely won't get any kickback on that.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
You definitely won't get somebody walking up to you being like, "Excuse me." It's like, "You what? You're pro Watergate?"
I don't understand how
whatever. Keep your
just blatant corruption. Yeah, we're good with that.
Right. I think that should be a bipartisan thing. We're all against Watergate, guys.
You would think, Pat.
I literally said Watergate kind of bothers me. And somebody was like, "Excuse me." It's like, shut up. Now I know who you are as a person, and you can go fuck yourself.
Trash. You're trash.
You can go Jerry Lee Lewis yourself.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, kill multiple spouses.
Allegedly. Jesus.
Allegedly.
There is. I'm not the person that can confirm that.
Maybe that person was just married to their child cousin instead.
That one's not allegedly, unfortunately.
No, that's not alleged at all.
That's not an alleged thing.
I mean, I'm alleging it because it's factual.
Yeah, exactly. You are positing a factual nugget of information.
Indeed.
All right. Okay. I'm going to go eat dinner.
Sounds like a plan.
So I hope you have a great time, buddy.
Oh, you too.
I will, dude. I'm going to be in the Poconos. I'm going to be living.
Of course. Well,
I'm going
to be here and dying.
Oh, shit. Don't do that.
Well, we'll see.
At least do me a favor. You got to wait, 8 more days?
Okay.
You got to wait 8 more days.
Done.
I need to enjoy the full 17 where I'm older than you before that happens.
I guess.
Well, because once you do that, I will then pass you in age after 17 days.
Oh, yeah.
So that's not allowed.
You're absolutely right.
That can't happen.
You've given me a lot to think about.
Shit. I always do this.